First ever race out in this SR1, and I found qualifying a bit of an adrenaline buzz. It was good. Bit wet, bit scary at times, but it was really good fun. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Hopefully it'll dry up a bit. It'll be a bit more fun, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Same for everybody.
So my brothers have raced in this before, and I've been to watch them, and it looked like great fun. And I met Roger Green, who runs this series, and he said, well, you know, we have a guest driver if you fancy a go, and I did. And also I'm an ambassador for Dare to Be Different, which is trying to encourage more girls to get into motorsport and consider it as a career. And I thought, well, I've got to take this opportunity because it's a brilliant one. They've never had a girl race in the series before, and I've got to show people that, you know, don't be scared, just do it. Just do it. If you fancy it, go for it. So they've been brilliant, and it's been brilliant fun so far. Once you get in, the actual car to drive is easy. It's learning its limits, which is hard. And I've had so much rain-interrupted practice that I don't think I've actually found the limit in the dry at all of the car. And that's what worried me about having a really dry race or dry qualifying, because everyone else has done races before in this actual car. They were raced at Brands Hatch. So I still, even now, don't know the limit of the car in the dry. But so I'm quite glad for the rain, actually, because it's helped me out a little bit. I've had a bit of practice in it.
And it's a very forgiving car. It's a car that you can attack, but it actually gives you back a lot of pleasure at the same time. For someone new like Rachel Brooks, who's here at probably one of the most difficult circuits in the UK, you need a car that's going to give you feedback. And I think what the Radical is able to give Rachel is exactly that. We got sort of horrible conditions today, a little bit damp, and that's where the car's going to move around that little bit more. That's where you need to talk to you, so you can actually feel it through the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes, and you know exactly where you are on the track. So it's a lot to take on board, but I think, you know, she did very well. She was 13th, she wasn't last. She got much quicker as the session sort of went on, and I think that's where that feeling started to come. But the more laps you do, the more feelings and sensations are going to start to happen, and then you know where you are.
Let's guide you through the grid then. That man there, James Taylor, lines up on pole position, and alongside him is the car of Richard Baxter. Row 2 of the grid is number 12, which is Rob Ellis, and he has Sam Moores alongside. And the third row of the grid is number 15, Tony Barwell, and number 24, Peter Brooks. Rachel Brooks qualified 13th quickest. As the lights go out, it's a poor start from James Taylor, our pole sitter. Rachel Brooks has to swerve round the stalled car of Spencer Bourne, who's gone nowhere when the lights went out, but the field turns its way through Old Hall Corner, and it's Rob Ellis that leads. James Taylor is alongside Kai Wheatley, who gets all sideways. James Taylor has to take to the grass in avoidance, and that's delayed him. The front two have got away, and somehow Kai Wheatley managed to gather the car back under his spell once more and hung on to third position. But it is, as they turn their way along Lakeside for the first time, it is the number 12 car of Rob Ellis that is out front and leading under huge pressure from Peter Brooks, who got a cracking start from 6th on the grid, the number 24 car. He's through into 2nd position. And those two have already got themselves a little bit of daylight between themselves and Kai Wheatley and the pole sitter and championship leader at this stage, James Taylor, who's slotted himself through into 4th place. Then we get a little bit of a gap before we see Tony Barwell in 5th place, and rounding out the top 6 at the moment, I think that's Andy Chittenden that's just gone through in 6th position. Ian MacDonald at the wheel of the number 13 car. We heard from him earlier on, having his first race in the car. He's got off the line well and is settling into the race as Rob Ellis is coming under pressure. 4 for the lead of the race, with Tony Barwell, car number 15, just that little bit further back in 5th place, as they all work their way through what is Hislops and then through the right-hander at Knickerbrook before they start to climb up towards Clay Hill. And now, by the look of things, it looks as though James Taylor is trying to pull a move on Kai Wheatley, squeezes his way through on the left-hand side at Clay Hill. That's a very brave move, and he's managed to get the job done before they get towards Druids Corner. So place gained for the pole sitter, James Taylor, who just didn't get off the line particularly well when the lights went out. Peter Brooks having a quick look up the inside of Rob Ellis, heading in towards what is Lodge. Can't quite work his way through to the lead of the race, then runs a little bit wide coming out of the corner. It looks as though James Taylor is back under pressure from Kai Wheatley as they squabble over 2nd and 3rd place. Kai Wheatley looks to try and draw himself alongside, not going to be able to squeeze his way through when they get to Old Hall. Needs to be careful though, does Kai Wheatley, because number 15 Tony Barwell's not that far behind as well. Looking to attack, he now needs to defend as they head down through Cascades, and you can see now Kai Wheatley has fallen away a shade from the front three and is now coming under pressure from that number 15 car in the hands of Tony Barwell. Along Lakeside up towards Island Bend, James Taylor looking to try and attack and gain the position, squeezes his way through and gains the place there. That's Peter Brooks that has now lost out. And now James Taylor is very much focused on the car ahead. That being the number 12 car in the hands of Rob Ellis, who finished second in the first race of the season at Brands Hatch, race number 1. Is now under pressure. Most of the field file their way in towards the Britain chicane. Top 3, then the gap, then Kai Wheatley, then Tony Barwell, and the rest of the pack thereafter. So over Hilltop comes our race leader, Rob Ellis, still out front and leading the race. Keep an eye also throughout this race from the number 22 car of Oliver Barker, who qualified second quickest, but his car, following post-qualifying scrutineering, was placed at the back of the grid and given a 10-second penalty. Arguably one of the quicker drivers in the field, starting from the very, very back and with work to do in this race. So we ride on board once more with the Sky Sports pit lane reporter, Rachel Brooks. So here comes our race leader, who is under pressure from James Taylor. James Taylor being squeezed towards the grass by Rob Ellis, just about managing to hang on to the lead. Peter Brooks not that far away, so it's still Ellis from Taylor. Then the white car with its blue flashes in the hands of Peter Brooks, who's now looking to try and attack and get himself back into second if he can. James Taylor just made a very slight mistake coming out of Lodge, ran the car a little bit wider than he would have wanted, and that's given Peter Brooks the opportunity to squeeze his way back up the inside. Back to second goes Brooks. James Taylor trying to re-attack again automatically as they head down the avenue and in towards Cascades, and has taken the place back, so they've swapped back within a couple of corners. And all of this might just now have released our race leader, Rob Ellis, into a slightly extended lead, but by the look of things, no, not at all. James Taylor is now mounting a challenge for the lead of the race as they head up towards Island Bend. Not really an overtaking opportunity, Island Bend. A very fast, daunting corner, which has caught out the number 24 car of Peter Brooks, who rotates through 360 degrees, and it looks as though Kai Wheatley is off as well. So we've had a spin for Peter Brooks, we've had a spin for Kai Wheatley. It may well have been that Kai Wheatley just lost concentration as Peter Brooks spun the car. That forced him in avoidance onto the grass, and unfortunately Kai Wheatley is going to take slightly longer to recover than Peter Brooks, who did a very quick 360-degree spin and has recovered the car. The squabble is on for the lead of the race. Still, Rob Ellis is not letting James Taylor go through. James Taylor brakes very late, has a good look up the inside, heading in towards Hislop's corner, but I think, rightly so, at the last minute, thought, well, hang on a minute, if I try that one, there may well be contact here, and having won the first 2 races of the championship at Brands Hatch, James Taylor has got a championship to think about here. Rob Ellis looking to try and hang on to the place, and for poor old Kai Wheatley, car number 7, well, at the moment, he has not, as yet, been able to restart the car having spun down at Island Bend. And is that going to mean that the safety car might come out? Well, James Taylor looking to attack Rob Ellis again for the lead. Great driving by Rob, just managing to keep the championship leader behind, as the safety car is indeed coming out. Safety car boards around the circuit, suggesting that Kai Wheatley's car is in a position of danger. Kai cannot get the car restarted by the look of things, needs the assistance of the marshals, who are on hand and eventually give him the bump start that he needs, and he'll be able to continue round in the race. So lights out on the safety car, just a quick safety car period. We're about to go green flag racing once more, with Rob Ellis now deciding as to when he wants to hit the accelerator pedal. There's no overtaking until you get to the start-finish line. Keep an eye on Oliver Barker, because he is also picking up places, having started at the back of the grid and having been given a 10-second penalty. He is slowly shuffling his way through the order. We go green once more. Rob Ellis in the lead of the race. James Taylor looking to try and attack. We've got the number 15 car of Tony Barwell slotting himself through into 3rd position. You can see just how hard James Taylor is trying now. The tail end of the SR1 almost snapped away from him as they went through Old Hall. Down towards Cascades, they work their way. And there is number 22, that's Oliver Barker. Well, at the moment, he is knocking on the door, if not inside the top 6 by the look of things, as we are side by side for the lead of the race, and it is James Taylor that's going to go through down Lakeside, has the inside line for the left-hander at Island Bend. So it's James Taylor that now takes up the lead of the race, and Rob Ellis finds himself for the first time in this race down in 2nd position, with the all-white car of Tony Barwell there in 3rd position. Andy Chittenden still looks as though his number 48 white and red car sits there in 4th place. But the man to watch out for, I would suggest, is still Oliver Barker, who is still working his way through from the tail end of the grid, and a 10-second penalty following technical infringements after qualifying. There is the number 22 car of Oliver Barker. Here you can see that he's up into 6th position now and has got himself ahead of Peter Brooks. So that's the car to watch out for, Oliver. Finished 3rd in race 2 at Brands Hatch. We've only had 2 races in the 2016 Radical SR1 Cup, and well, at the moment, Oliver Barker, who was 2nd quickest in qualifying before his exclusion, is up to 6th place and working terribly hard to try and catch the trio of cars that have broken away for the lead, that being James Taylor, who leads, number 2, then number 12, Rob Ellis in second place, and the number 15 car of Tony Barwell, who completes the top 3. But this is a fantastic battle for 4th place. Andy Chittenden under pressure from Richard Baxter, who needs to attack and defend from Oliver Barker at the same time. And it looks as though this time through Oliver Barker has probably got the run on Richard Baxter and should be able to squeeze his way through. Yeah, he's got the job done even before they head up toward Oulton corner, and a great move up the inside very, very late on Andy Chittenden. 2 places gained down the start-finish straight there for Oliver Barker. He is absolutely flying. He is now up into what will be 4th position as Andy Chittenden comes under attack and pressure from Richard Baxter. Almost lost another position there. Richard Baxter also needs to be careful. He's got the number 24 car of Peter Brooks not far behind. Fantastic racing, great battling right the way throughout the Radical SR1 Cup here at Oulton Park. So through Island Bend once more goes the battle for what is now 5th, 6th and 7th places. Andy Chittenden just ahead of Richard Baxter, with Peter Brooks not that far behind. They start to hold each other up, that trio may well become a quartet, because there's another car that's now just beginning to close in onto their coattails as well. Out of Britain's over Hilltop as they make their way up towards the braking area for Hislops, still with Andy Chittenden at the front of the little trio. The car that's beginning to close in on them is Sam Moore's, so what is a battle for 5th, 6th and 7th may well be joined by the car that is there in 8th place. As things stand, it's still Chittenden from Baxter, then Peter Brooks, as that trio work their way out of Knickerbrook and start to climb uphill through the sweeping left-hander at Clay Hill, whilst our race leader, James Taylor, is well and truly up the road. But look at the car in 4th position. Oliver Barker really has started to close in now. He's caught up with Tony Barwell, so the battle is on for Oliver Barker. Look at this fantastic fight still for 5th, 6th and 7th, and you could argue 8th place now as well, because it looks as though Sam Moores has as good as caught the trio ahead. Has been a frantic action all the way through the order as this battle for 5th comes back over the start-finish line. Andy Chittenden having to stick his elbows out to try and hang on to the place, working terribly hard to keep Richard Baxter's aspirations at bay. And any slip up at all from either of those two might just allow Peter Brooks to pick their pockets, as by the look of things, here comes, what a fantastic drive for Oliver Barker. He gains another position. There's another spin for Kai Wheatley. He's had a busy race, hasn't he, rather. And by the look of things, we've had a big old shuffle in the order for 5th place, because now it is Peter Brooks that's up to 5th position. Andy Chittenden, I think, that's now down into 6th position. And Richard Baxter this time gets the throttle on a bit too early coming out of Britain's. He was in 7th place. That's a spin. That's going to drop him towards the bottom of the top 10 as he recovers his Radical SR1 off the grass. Well, here now is the battle for the lead of the race. Oliver Barker, I said he was picking off the positions lap by lap by lap. Well, he's now got himself right up onto terms with James Taylor, the race leader, who has claimed 2 victories so far out of the 2 races that we've had. There's 1 lap to go, and James Taylor just needs to ensure that he hangs on to this lead for the next 2.7 miles around the Oulton Park International Circuit. He's driven well so far. He didn't get off the line well, but thereafter James Taylor has driven a faultless race. There's problems there for car number 13. That's Ian MacDonald just running onto the grass a little bit wide, having his first race, as the race leader is along the avenue and up towards Island Bend for the final time, with Oliver Barker, to my mind, still closing in. The gap is coming down. It's shrinking between 1st and 2nd, and we're almost now at the tail end of this race. So through Shell Oil's hairpin, and then accelerating up towards the right, left and right flicks at Britain's, as they now are on to the best part of the final half a lap here at Oulton Park, with James Taylor still managing to hang on to the lead of the race. Oliver Barker has not as yet given up aspirations of taking the lead, despite the fact that time is running out and, well, the overtaking opportunities are running out. James Taylor, you can see the car squirming under brakes, and he brakes too late heading in towards Hislops. That has handed the lead of the race to Oliver Barker, and James Taylor there was one single chink in his armour there. He's hardly put a foot wrong all race, and Oliver Barker, what a drive from the tail end of the field. 15th position he was placed in after qualifying infringements, and he's taken up the lead of the race, and surely he's going to have to defend from a hard-charging James Taylor, who has led a chunk of this race and is now trying to pick the pocket of Oliver Barker as they head into the braking area for Lodge Corner. Is it going to be Oliver Barker that claims his first win in the Radical SR1 Cup, or is it going to be James Taylor? They're almost side by side going out of the corner. James Taylor gets sideways and on the charge towards the line. It is Oliver Barker that takes the win in the first of the Radical SR1 Cup races here at Oulton Park. He will be rather pleased with that, and rightly so for Oliver Barker. James Taylor finishes in second position. Further down through the order, here comes Rachel Brooks now. She's coming under pressure from the number 5 car that sits behind her, and it's a spin for Rachel coming out of Lodge Corner on the final lap. It's been her first race though, and she'll be looking forward to race number 2 a little later on. Let's hear from our race winner on the podium.
It's a bit of a shame starting at the back with a 10-second grid penalty, but I was just focused on getting as far up the grid as I could. The safety car halfway through the race helped with things, bunching the pack up. I took advantage of it in the first corner, got past a few cars, and from then on just put the foot down and went and got the win. Come on. The day,